Cold never bothered me anyway. I don't know why I love that song. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yay, I got somebody in here this morning to actually chat with. Dude, for real, some trippy stuff has been happening lately. First, let me show you what I had in the picture, right? Check her out. So I did a letters to the ancestors on my own last night for the quarter Samhain thing, right? And look what she pulled up. This is how the candle wax melted. Doesn't she look? I don't even want to clean it off. It looks like a woman. It actually has two arms and everything. It looks like a woman in robes casting into a cauldron, right? And I shared a picture in the group, and somebody said that this formation over here looks like a little boy holding a teddy bear, which I'm going to put this all the way up there because I don't want it to get messed up. Put it up there at my angels for right now, for wherever that little boy is, because the little boy has popped up so a bunch of times now. So me and Rob were doing a past life hypnosis. He practiced with a friend. They learned how to do it in prison. Give a lot of time in prison, I've learned, and a lot of people do a lot of soul retrieval there. It's kind of fascinating. I mean, you talk about triggering a dark night of the soul. But in one of the past life regressions, if I was a little girl in one life, and I was talking about how my mother had passed away. I had a little brother, and he's in heaven now, and they asked where my mother was, and I was like, she's with my little brother. And then I believe it was Friday, I let a woman do a practice reading on me, and then while she was reading, she said she speaks to spirits, and then there was an entity there of a little boy, a little bit older. She said probably between 13 and 15. And I was like, wow, right? Because for some reason it triggers this memory that I used to have written in a small book where I had messed with the Ouija board. I've mentioned this before, and that's where I met an entity that I call Braille, that I've always attributed to the same energy as like Archangel Gabriel, right? Now in the Ouija board thing, he had told me that we were 14, so we were looking for our soulmates, right? He had told me that he was my soulmate, and I was going to meet him later, and da-da-da-da-da. I forget the details, and somebody stole the book over the years. So I wish I still had the details to all of it. But I don't know, I just think it's cool that with the veil being so thin and calling on the ancestors, all it keeps pulling up is a baby brother that I never had. Even my mom, after she had me, she had her tubes tied, but she always wanted a baby boy. So she had one of the original Baby Alive dolls. Her and one of her friends each got one, the anatomically correct, like rubbery baby dolls. And it was a boy named Brandon, who would have been a few years younger than me had she gone that route. I don't know. I think it's trippy. Enchanted, you know some of the things that I've been running through in my head lately, so it's like, I don't know, it's cool. I've been thinking about a lot of that lately. And then like all this whole big shift that's going on, which has been crazy. I know a lot of people are freaking out right now, but I don't know. This is kind of exactly the direction I thought the new world would go. I did get upset at one point. It was weird because it was like I was crying, but I wasn't actually crying. Like there wasn't any tears or anything. It was very weird. There's no way, even I could pay a stranger to do that to me. The only reason I could do it is because I could get into that state and I trusted him enough to do it. it was funny too, because he was sitting there and he was trying to explain to me how I needed to relax and everything else like that. And I'm looking at him like, I know how to meditate, man. I know how to put myself in my own personal trippy states. I was like, so I'm just going to go off that groundwork and we'll see where we go. And we went pretty deep. The first 2 lives, I was a real young child. And then we got to a third life where we specifically focused on one where I could be older so I could comprehend a little bit more about what was going on. Because that's what was weird too, is I couldn't comprehend past whatever age the child was that I was channeling. Because in one life we were at like a Stonehenge type place. Only it had blue rocks, and he was asking me, he goes, what do the rocks do? And all I could say was, they talk to the stars. But the last life, I was walking home through like a old wooden village, like a hut and thatch type village. And I went into my house, and my house, it was all like herbs and things like that, all hanging along the walls. It had like the rafters hanging along the walls, and it had the bed station in the back, and in the middle it had this big fire pit, that was constantly burning, I guess, to dry out all the stuff. And it started getting really smoky, and I went to try to leave, and something or someone had barricaded the door, and then the building started catching on fire, and I started coughing really bad. He pulled me out. It was like, why we're not showing you any of your adult lives? Because these are past lives, and you were lucky to make it to 30. So that's something to put into perspective, too. How many lives did you live that you didn't even make it to an adult? When you think about it, that was the reason that they pumped out, having kids. Yeah, it was normal to have 7 kids. You were lucky if 3 made it to adulthood. Shouldn't you be lucky if 1 did? You'd be lucky if you lived till they became adults. Mm-hmm. And I kind of guess you would look at those lives as like crash courses, right? Why would someone choose to be born in Yemen in the middle of a famine, only to starve to death within its first year because its mother can't even produce milk? Why would anything choose that life? Well, what if that life only had to learn mortality? Maybe that's the first lesson. You come in and die immediately. What? The first lesson you got to learn, what? How to deal with death itself. If you can face that level, then you can move on to the next. That's just a theory that I've been tossing. I just came up with. I don't really cling to anything. People are always asking me what exactly I believe. I don't really exactly believe in anything. I allow it to be a constantly evolving thought process. As things happen, as things evolve, as information comes in, as I meet different groups with different belief systems. And dude, 3 years ago, I had no idea what twin flames were. Not a clue. Not a clue. And then what caught my attention to the whole thing was the telepathy thing. And I was like, okay, well, now I've had that happen before. Not the obsession, I've always been really good at letting shit go. I mean, I had to learn it very, very young. I moved every 3 to 4 years my whole adolescent life. So letting go of people has always been an easy thing for me to do because I've been forced to. Every time I make a strong, friend connection with a group of friends, we'd move. So I never had this whole, you can never stop thinking about them, that stuff really, I think, only started with social media. Now when someone crosses your mind, you can look them up and see what they're doing. That brought a whole new level to the game. And I think that's what's got most people stuck right now, especially the millennial crew. Because they're so immersed since MySpace. Because once upon a time, if you broke up with somebody and then moved to another state, you never had to think about them again. Unless you had kids or something with them. Then if you ran into them someplace, somewhere, in a different area of the country, then it was serendipitous. Now it's like people are stalking each other all the time. Well, I guess I'll just use a different paragraph. I'm going Miss Cleo today. When I first started, I kept calling everybody darling, and I felt like it was cheesy. And I was like, I hope people don't think I sound like Miss Cleo calling everybody darling. I'm like, it's more of a Southern thing, not a Jamaican thing. Just don't call anybody child. But a lot of people are. It's trippy. Because the girl who gave me the reading too, and I tried to do a video on it the other night, but I just wasn't liking the way they were coming out. But the girl who gave me the reading, when she brought up the little brother and stuff like that, and the things that she was bringing up, and I was like, well, I don't know how what he wants me to do in the 3D about that. I was like, there's nothing I can do, and I was like, and I totally get why he's presenting to you as an adolescent little child. I was like, he hasn't done that to me in ages. He always presents the same age I am. So for me, he presents himself as his hard ass, but for you guys, he presents himself as a little child. So but then she was just like, would you say this is like a twin flame energy? And I was like, yeah, I guess you could say like, I have kind of like a spiritual twin flame. I've seen this spark in several people, and I've had that level of telepathic connection with those people. Now, I just assumed it was something, I assumed that's what love was. I never attributed to, but then she went on the typical spiel that, separation is a part of the journey, and just send them affirmations and love and healing. And then she said something really creepy. She said, she's like, an affirmation I used to do was chant several times, something along the lines of, he only wants me. And I immediately stopped her right there. I was like, that right there. And then she said she was out of separation with her twin for 3 years. I was like, that right there is why you're out of separation with your twin. That right there. I was like, and then I ended up doing her reading, and yeah, I'm like, you can't. And then she's not in with her twin. She doesn't want to be with her twin. She's getting ready to marry somebody else, and she's getting all these readings, and the readings are telling her that, when she announces her engagement to this other guy, that the twin is going to come back in. I'm like, well, that's very likely, but I don't think that's a twin. I just think that's a pseudo narcissist. Dude's also married. I was like, I don't, honestly, sweetheart, I don't think you should be giving anybody twin flame advice. Because then she started going, well, who's my twin flame, who's my soulmate, and who's the karmic? I'm like, who needs titles? Where are you, why are you getting these programmings, and why are you putting them so hard and trying to assign everybody these perfect? That's why everybody's trapped running in circles and not making any progress. Expand past it. And I was like, and she's like, well, I can just tell he's always thinking about me and da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, well, how long did you sit there doing that? You want me, only me, and now you wonder why this dude is obsessed with you now. I'm like, welcome to karma, honey. What you casted out has come back. You casted a spell to make a married man obsessed with you, and now you're weirded out. He's obsessed with you. That's not a twin flame. That's a toxic connection. Of course, when dealing with other people, I have to be far more eloquent with my words and kinder about it. But I don't know. I ended up talking to her for about 2 hours, and I think she left off at a pretty healthy space. I gave her some different twin flame information. I told her to go to Golden Ray and sent her to a couple of different spots for some different information on twin flames to try and help clarify some of it for her. And I gave her a reading. We did a reading exchange. And I know I got ripped off, but that is fine. It it is what it is. I didn't, but I didn't. She does have powerful gifts in one area, but the problem is she's allowing programming from outside sources to affect her readings. And she turned around and said, she goes, see, because it didn't resonate. She goes, see, this is why I hate cards. I was like, well, if you hate your cards, they're going to hate you back. But your cards reflect your attitude. If your cards have an attitude problem, that's your attitude problem. And I've said that all the time. I'm like, my guides have an attitude problem, and I have an attitude problem. The problem is I'm a filter for my guides. Somebody needs to be the filter in the situation. I said the same thing. I was like, I love my cards. It's not the card's fault. It's not the card's fault because you're not reading with the cards. You are, but you're reading the programming. You know what I'm saying? You're putting it to a program that you want to pump. And you're just repeating everything that somebody else is saying. And I'm like, chick. All right, let's go ahead and we can get through these cards for today. So, and this has definitely been coming up a lot lately. You got the Eight of Pentacles followed by the Five of Pentacles here. So really coming out of what things were starting to go good. Now I'm worrying about money again. But I do see some inspiration really coming in, and either a strong idea or something that inspires you, something that makes you really want to take a longer look in a certain direction. I do see some conflicts, which is probably why you're stalling to take a real look at this. Because there's conflicts, and definitely some kind of choice needs to be made, and truce and all that to really follow your passions. So she's with the dragon, working together. So that ties into really what I was talking about with her too. I was like, it's making peace with the energy without feeding it anymore. And she's like, well, I just keep feeding it positive energy. I'm like, stop feeding it at all. I'm like, because clearly the dude is a total narcissist. Don't feed the connection. I said, work on meditating. And she's like, oh, all the readers keep telling me that. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, work on meditating. The objective is to, and I know you guys have heard somebody else say this before, get that string as loose as possible. Keep stretching it. Like when I told you my bracelet that I did the cord cutting with eventually wore out from me doing so much with it that it broke and all the beads shattered and were loose. How many of us have had that favorite crystal bracelet pop and shatter? It's kind of like that. You just gotta just wear it out. And then what it is every time the thought comes in, you just release it. Don't attach to it. Don't dwell on it. Don't send negative energy. Don't send it positive energy. Don't send it any energy. Cut it off. I mean, it's messed up. And I know Because as I said, Braille to others is presenting as a small child, and it's probably because he feels weak, and it's probably because this is what I've been doing with a bunch of energies that I have seen him in. I've cut off a lot of people that had that spark. So I've not been giving it a lot of energy. So of course it feels small and forgotten right now. But if feeding it causes a problem, if feeding it causes an inability for someone to let go of you, you have to stop feeding it, or else they will continue to cling to it, and their energy is not nice all the time. It is not friendly. They're not feeding you back the same energy that you're feeding them. We're going through all this time. We're sending so many people, just send them love, just send them love. And they're just like, love, 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 love when they think, when they get it. And then they go, oh, I fucking hate that bitch. And that's what you get sent back to you. So stop. Plus, it just feeds the cord. It keeps it nice and tight and strong. You got to be mindful of the 3D egos these entities are attached to. Another case in point, too, is I know, I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet to you guys. Case had someone the other day, and they were talking about oversouls. And he said something along the lines of, he believes everybody has access to get to the next dimension. And there were like the 144,000 souls. He's like, well, maybe that's 144,000 oversouls. He goes, if you do the math, that would give each oversoul like 28,000 souls that it's in charge of. Right? And each of those clusters of souls are running all the mirroring timelines that we see. So all the mirroring timelines that you see around you are part of your oversouls clusters that it's running. Right? You see how that gets expansive and expansive and expansive. That explains whole country ideologies. But that's one soul tribe, soul cluster, running over an entire population. And some of them are spread out globally. It's crazy. I don't know. That's just a rabbit hole I've been diving into lately. All right, for the 4D line, it's been balancing money and home, money and skills. You got the 4 of Cups, which is like, I always say overindulgence, but it's different in this deck. It's different in this deck because he's holding the cup and he's holding a wand. So I almost feel like he's casting. But the 4 of Cups is not usually, it's just like he's casting, but he doesn't have all the information. He's trying to form something, but he's still missing some information. This isn't balanced yet, and he's holding that. You got the pyramids in the background there. That's the energy I'm getting off of. So it's like he's trying to balance that. Yeah. So let's just look at more cards, lady. 7 of Cups is right after that. So he's holding this. He's not sure which. But to balance out my elemental table, I don't know what to put in the 4th corner type deal. Right? I get a strong, like, and I said, I showed you my candle wax and all that. I'm getting a strong casting sense that a lot of people were casting this weekend. It was like, it was a hard dilemma to even think, how do I balance out my energies, right? So I'm going to give this to the, north, south, east, west, but what do I give to the last? Like, you couldn't figure out one of it. And now I'm always talking about when you're using the elements to cast, it's like, earth is grounded, physical things. That's where you create your altar. That's where you take the physical steps to manifest in your life, right? Air is your thoughts and your words. You want those to go into that area. Passion is where your passion lies. Cups is where your emotion lies. And these being all cups cards, it's like you don't know what to put on the water side of things. You don't know where your emotions really lie, or you don't know where your passions really lie. Which probably means your thoughts and words aren't balanced either, because your words probably say one thing and your thoughts probably say another thing. And that gets you stagnant in the 3D, because what steps do I take? What direction do I go in? If I say one thing and think another, I'm just going to run in a circle. I'm going to go stagnant. Page of Staffs. Page of Staffs is pretty much telling you that something caught your interest, and that was your interest, and you keep looking away from it because you don't know how to go for it. But the Page of Staffs knows how to go for what he's passionate for. He's all about enthusiasm and discovery and energy and passion and adventure. Follow your passion. Okay, so I'm definitely getting it. You don't know where your passion is card here, because at the end it's still 6 of Staffs. There's victory. You follow where your passions lie. Your emotions and your thoughts and your words are unbalanced, because the 4th cup is the cup of passion. And I'm in fire. In the east, not east, the south. I'm losing my mind today. South is fire. Queen of Fire today. Queen of Fire today. All right, so on the 5D, we have the High Priest. Right? Like I said, the entity presented itself as a small child, but for me, I do not ever get a small child. I get a very powerful entity that I feel I need to defend myself from, because some of these entities, especially if they're really attached to the 5D, are very, 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 very well adapted to creating their own realities. And people like this usually come from a very, like I said, oversouls here, oversouls. So this could be in control of a lot of people. These are the people that go through extremely hard times at the beginning of their life, and then at some point realize how they did that. And if you look back far enough into the past, you'll notice that they were one type of narcissist in the past, and they become a different type of narcissist in the future. Like I said, that one lady with the married man who is trying to make an appearance now that she's getting engaged because they used to have an affair. That is someone who's very, very adept at controlling those around him. Makes people feel defensive, especially the feminine energies. So Knight of Swords here. So now the Knight of Swords is the immature version of the King. He can be opinionated and hasty and hurtful with his words, and oftentimes can, with the level of intelligence that he says, cut you very deeply to the core. Got the Emperor here too. Ruling over his domain. Look how shiny and nice all my stuff is. Very strong masculine energy. The Aries card as always, right? It's almost like I say what I say and I do what I do because I can. I'm the king of my throne. And it's just, the end message on this is really just, let it go. Let it go. Funny how that was the song this morning, right? And that's really been the message of the whole reading. If you're dealing with these type of energies, and gender is fluid, right? It really just depends on where you are in your life as to whether you lean more towards the intuitive feminine energies within you or whether you lean towards the ego masculine energies within you. And I'm not saying either are bad. You need both. You need both. I do agree with that. What? You have been given this giant neural network computer with an eyeball, an energetic eyeball in the middle of it, right? Operating this brain. This is where you generate your energetic field. This is where the fluid pumping through your veins goes back and forth and actually pumps and generates your energetic field. And within this is a very small brain. It's a very small cluster of neurons that look like brain neurons. You need both. And I'll tell you something. The Egyptians, they kept the pineal gland intact. They just took out the gray matter because that didn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but that's, that knowledge from your third eye gets automatically loaded to the Akashic records. That personality saved. That is not needed. Your heart, though, your heart is taken out and preserved in a jar to carry with you to the afterlife. You need both to survive here. Only one goes with you and becomes new things afterwards. That's what transmutes. It's deep this morning, y'all. We have the atonement card again. Like I said, for the example in this story, that woman, her atonement is she did that casting in the past, projected that energy very strongly for a very good chunk of time. And that is the energy coming back at her. And she can either allow that to derail her life, or she can take the consequences of it and navigate her way through it into a nice, happy life with her fiance. Forgetting oneself on this side. So that's like true, right? Feminine energies, masculine energies. Forgetting oneself, hiding behind a mask. 178. And now me and Rob came up with a theory about the infinity symbol too. He was like, it's this, I forget what we were talking about, but he was like, it's the center point. Boop, boop, boop. That's how it works. That's where the insanity comes in. What? Keep doing the same thing over and over and hitting this same thought over and over and over again for infinity. Why? Because you've forgotten something about yourself. Or you're forgetting your true self. Denying this part. All right. How do we ground? How do we center? How do we get ourselves through these tough energies? The breath is the doorway between the physical and the spiritual realm. And you need is to breathe. Calm and breathe. And that's why they say in meditation, just focus on your breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Ralph from Infinite Waters, breathe in that good ass prana, baby. And breathe in nature. Man, I went out last night. We went fishing all day yesterday. And last night we went out to this one pier where I knew it was dark past this tree where the light was. And I got to see a shooting star. I was able to take a picture of Mars on my phone. There was so many stars out there. It was so beautiful. You could see the tint of the actual Milky Way through the night sky. Get out there, guys. I mean, as soon as we crossed out of the light into the shadow and I looked up, it literally took my breath last night. And I sat out there and breathing, and then I came home, and that's what I came home to, was High Priestess throwing things into a cauldron. Creation. Don't go out there and breathe and allow thoughts of things of the past and people of the past and toxic connections and hard times and hard memories and why is this person like this and why is that person like that and how do I fix this and da da da. You don't. It's just like with everything else. You don't go out there with the intent of doing that, of figuring it out. You don't go out there with the intent of figuring it out. You go out there with the intent of releasing the attachment to figuring it out. So that it can figure itself out. Because our need to fix is an ego response. Our need to fix others, our needs to fix co-created situations, our need to control situations and others and control the way they think and everything else. That is ego responses. Go out and release it. Think about what you can create. Write some poetry. Write a book. Create something with your hands. Go out in nature and create a leaf mandala and then just leave it to be blown away by the wind. Let it go. Actually, I think that is a beautiful idea. I think if you guys really want to get something, if it's Sunday and you ain't got nothing else to do, go out into nature, breathe deeply, create something. Go to the beach and create a pattern with some rocks or draw a picture in the sand. Create something, put some real intent into making it as beautiful as you can. Some people like to stack the pebbles and things, rocks and stuff like that, and then just leave it, knowing that it'll either get blown away or washed away or destroyed eventually. Practice the art of letting it go. All right, y'all. You know, I heard something the other day that someone said, and they were like, some people just give you the advice on how to be happy where you're at or some shit like that. I give you the tools to get out of your situation. It's not what I do at all. I try to help you figure out how to get through your personal path, your personal journey, and whatever lessons you chose to come here to learn that you are not running from with your soul intact. That's my goal, is to help people get through this life with their souls intact and collecting up as little karma debt as you can. It's been too much of my life and too much of the last, since the conjunctions in 2000 since the conjunctions really in 2012, I have been clearing massive karmic debts on multiple family lines. And it's not easy. And people are like, oh, whatever reason, you sabotage shit, you're a bitch and whatever. I have no idea how dramatically my chaos has jumped timelines, family timelines, knocked them off, continuing cycle timelines onto different timelines. Right? I know it sounds cocky. And I know it wasn't just me. It was me and soul contracts that I had with other people that were able to accomplish this. But at any point, I would have just said, screw it. I want to be famous. So, fuck this life. Forget my kids. Forget my mom, my grandparents, my sister, everybody else. Screw it. I'm going to pack my bags and bounce out. And go focus on just being famous. I'm going to go live in my car like, the Brandon Ferris kid that I watched at this comedy. That's how he got started. Moved to California with nothing but his car, and he did one video a day on YouTube, a comedy video a day on YouTube for a year. He dedicated to doing that. And that's how he became famous. Some of us, and that could have very well been his path, but some people abandon their paths and they don't fulfill their contracts. If you don't fulfill your contracts, you just do it the next time. You can't skip the side quests, because that's what happens. I mean, I mentioned this with video games and stuff like that. It's like World of Warcraft. I mean, I don't care how good of a gamer you are. You have to go through whatever character you pick. You have to go through the first 10 levels before you can even get out of the first area. And then even though you know where the dragon is, and you can run straight to the dragon, if you don't go through all the quests, obtain all your tools, learn all your skills, learn how to fight, learn all your different spells and everything else on the bottom, if you don't pick that all up before you get to the big boss, you don't beat the big boss. And sometimes you get to the big boss, you beat him. Technically, you beat him according to your little thingamajiggy, and then the computer program takes over. You have no choice in what your character does anymore. Everybody just starts running around, and the boss beats you and flies off. Part 2 of the game. We were talking about that the other day too. Sometimes it feels like it even happens to you, right? Like you actively see yourself doing things that you know deep down you're like, oh, what is this? This is a stupid decision. Why would anybody make this decision? My case in point is like when I kicked my second husband out. You have any idea how many people thought I was absolutely retarded for doing that? You booted, and this is all they cared about. You booted out stable income. The people who called me stupid for that did not care about that man's health at all. And you think I'm crazy? He was in the hospital not but a month or two ago for a week for the same conditions, because he's even worse now than he was when I sent him up there. If he was down here, he'd be dead. 100%. I have no doubt in my mind about that now, that my guides were 100% right for me to do that when I did that, or else he would have been down here, caught COVID, and been dead. You know. Got nothing against money. You know, I have cousins and stuff. They're very benevolent people. They're very sweet people, and they deserve everything that they have. But some of us, it's not about the money. It's not. It's like, you know, with all the advice that people give me about, you can make your channel better if you did this. If you did it this way, and, you know, the Facebook algorithms, and people seem to forget that when I was doing the Celestico shit, I had no problems building large audiences very quickly. And yet it looks like I'm sabotaging myself. You don't know what I'm doing. And you don't know who I am, obviously. I like the fact that I only have 16 subscribers on this channel. That's why I created this channel for the small select group, and I kept the other channel as more generic. You guys will notice I don't go as deep as I do over there as I do over here now. I did that on purpose. There's no sense. For me, it's no sense in talking to people who don't understand. I'm not trying to get shallow people to follow me. I'm not trying to get mindless drones that can't think for themselves, that are following these toxic ass narratives and spending years of their lives. And I watch other tarot readers because it fascinates me. It does. There's this one woman. She's not in union with her twin flame, but apparently she talks to him all the time still. And she does twin flame divine readings, and she's not even in her twin flame connection. Why are people listening to people who aren't in union and are single reading for divine connections? How do they know? They've never been in union. They're in separation from someone from the past so hard that they can't let go of it. and they're not in union with anybody, and they're sitting here telling you that separation is part of the process, how do they know they're not in union? Be mindful who you guys are listening to out there. What's sad is the 16 probably don't need this information. For very new people that come over, they won't subscribe because they don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that you've been a psycho and wasting an enormous amount of your energy. But that's how you get into soul loss. And when you're running those crazy programs where you're like watching yourself do things, and here's what happens, and this is how soul loss even happens, right? You hit those points where you have to do something crazy and you're watching yourself do these crazy things and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing these crazy things. I know that I'm not reaching this person. This person thinks I'm insane. I should just stop trying to explain myself to this person. And you're still just running it. And it's almost like a point where, it's after you've surrendered to doing a big shift that you have a hard time getting back control. It's like the universe takes over and has you run out as much contracts as it can. And then you just like, that whole year was just running out a giant contract. And then the accumulation of it was the Chantix breakdown and ending up in the psych ward and then filling out my contracts in the psych ward to help those freaking people. And then since then, I've been back in control, but I have been very careful about every move I make. I'm a little still shaken up by that. But at the same time, it's like it perfectly worked out with the whole world shutting down anyway. So, I don't know. I'm not bitter. I didn't get anything I wanted over the last 2 years for the sacrifice that I made. I didn't get what the universe promised me. It did promise me something. If you do this, you change timelines better, not just for them, but for you and your children. I was promised that. And I was really hurt that it's been really hard the last 2 years for me. But now I see why. And I'm okay with that. I was just talking to you guys a little while ago how I was so upset that all the festivals are shut down and Gopher Hill was shut down. That was supposed to be my first big festival. Turns out now my first festival will be with the Zenden here in December. So I'm going to be going and getting to work on all of that. Should I do a twin flame soulmate? Not twin flame, but I'll do a past life reading. I'm just going to do the one sign today. And I'll do that over on the other channel because I am still trying to get stuff out over there for people. This dice has just got to be unbalanced. All right. Cancer today. All right, I'm going to go get you some coffee and some breakfast and walk the dogs, and I will be back to do that Cancer reading on the other channel in a little bit, all right? I love y'all. Blessed be all those who walk these weird and windy paths with me. I love y'all so much, and I'll try to catch you in the morning.